This Dead by Daylight fanfiction is based on the 2000s emo scene aesthetic. I know this takes place in Seattle as the main setting. The main protagonist of the chapter trilogy, Kim Aries, was inspired by my imagination, and she's the hybrid of the ruler of the fog known as the Entity. Her last name has the same name as a zodiac sign for a representation of the ram. She was a kind person and fell in love with Uma and Judy. Her middle name Sue is actually the same word as the city and the same middle name. She chooses to be a hero rather than be a killer because of Mark. Speaking of the devil, her adopted father, Mark Aries, was inspired by a soldier who is actually an exorcist, and he was a very kind man who actually respects children, especially Kim and her friends. Speaking of her friends, Iero was a scene girl inspired by one of my favorite bands of all time, My Chemical Romance. Speaking of the devil, her last name was inspired by Frank Iero. Although MCR started in 2001, Uma wears this since she first heard this in 2004. She wears the 3 cheers for sweet revenge tee when she comes to investigation, and has the night vision goggles into the investigation. And for some reason, upon being thrown into the realm, her night vision goggles reappeared on her head, and would always wear it in the trials, no matter what. She was the smartest and good person. Let's move on to Z Elite. She was inspired by one of my favorite films of all time in the 1990s, The Craft, and loves another one of my favorite bands, Paramore. She first wore the shirt is when she first started investigate the abandoned forest in 2008. She was very loyal to everyone, even her friends. Sally Quinn looks like a 18-year-old version of the nurse Sally Smithson, but as survivor. Speaking of the killers, she has the same name as the nurse and same last name as the deathslinger, Caleb Quinn, despite not being blood-related. She's very nice to everyone. She wears round glasses and knew where her friends and innocent were going. Isha Rellant was obsessed with fishies. When she was little, she was interested in aquatic animals like clownfish, bluefish, starfish, a sponge, a giant squid, and even a shark. She understands that sharks can be predators of the human blood, but they're misunderstood giant fishes. She was very calm and charming. She was the first one to witness Barbara taking a picture when Kendra and Gregory were at their final moments, making her angry immediately and blocked her from MySpace. Speaking of warning, Judy Davis is the most innocent, loving, kind, and caring scene girl out of all of the protagonists. What's her origin story? You will have to find out at the beginning of Season 3. She loves hanging out with her friends and even the misunderstood creatures, ants, bugs, spiders, snakes, and rodents. She hated when these creatures she loved suffered the worst pain. Her first name actually had the same name as my grandma. My grandma can be lousy, but she's a good woman neither less. I love her all her heart. Judy was diagnosed with autism, and was extremely sensitive like I am. And finally Good Life. And finally Professor Sadie Kovac, who sadly appears in Episode 7, Memories and Blood. She was inspired by my current therapist, which I'm not gonna reveal her name for obvious reasons. She was the calmest and most loyal therapist towards Kim, and helped her with her powers and her illness. She doesn't care if she was a hybrid, she cares she was a misunderstood person who wanted a good life. Now let's get to the antagonists. Barbara Royce, aka the Rawr-Ring, was chaotically evil who loves to torture people for fun. Her inspiration comes from Claude Beauty _101. If you don't know who she is, link should be below. She's a good YouTuber and cares about you, although you might be uncomfortable, but I still love her no matter what. Back to the main topic. Barbara was obsessed with barbed wires since she was with Gregory and Kendra. Speaking of which, she was responsible for their deaths. Unlike Kim and other protagonists, she chooses to kill all because Gregory, her ex-boyfriend, broke up with her on his MySpace account. She always hang out with Rachel. Speaking of Rachel, she was 100 times evil like her friend, Barbara. She enjoys anarchy and was obsessed with voodoo magic and ragdolls. She was so saddened when her friend was taken by the fog. She would reunite with her in the next season. Randall, Watson and Angela were inspired by bullies from Carrie, 1973. Unlike the bullies from the film, Randall was a pure bully who never punished until the beginning of the end. Principal Bobby is just a manipulative principal, who has no right to expel these 6 protagonists I'd talked about. He will get kidnapped and killed by Rachel off-screen in the next season. I know off-screens can be unexplainable, but it is necessary to have a good plot twist. And finally, we got Carrie Green, a pink-obsessed scene girl who has no patience for Barbara, her rival to just disappeared out of the existence, same with her best friend, Rachel. Carrie was just moved by Barbara's disappearance, but unfortunately be reunited in the fog in Season 3 as a killer. You'll have to find out what her villain/traitor/killer arc would look like. So be patient. Neon Obsession was an original chapter idea that was inspired by real people, real cities, and had DBD references that will be so memorable as frick. I made my own story and character concepts all by myself. I use my imagination to bring this map, survivors and killers to the fog itself eventually. Did you know Kim Aries absolutely loves Michaela and Sable and actually shipping them? She heard at them kissing when she's in Judy's house. I actually can make a deleted scene in episode 3, where Judy warns Barbara about the torture chamber in disguise as a haunted house in Tennessee. Thanks for reading my Season 1 and behind the scenes. And I hope you have a good time and see you in the fog.